Welcome, everyone. We are so glad that you are here on this Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday morning if you're joining us from the West Coast. So we are super excited today as we are expanding our manufacturing offering. And today we are going over food products, beverages, and clothing. So I have Craig with me here. He's going to give you a lot of great information. But before I pass it over to him, I wanted to let you know that at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there is an option for Q&A. So anytime you have questions, you can go ahead and type your questions in that Q&A feature. We will cover them all live at the end of the webinar, but you can post those at any point. You don't have to wait until the end. So please feel free to utilize that. But with no further ado, I would love to introduce our product expert, Craig, who's going to go over all the great offerings that we have coming up.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. Hi, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to join today. As Alex mentioned, we've got a number of new class codes that are available on manufacturing, food products, beverages, and clothing that we are excited to walk through to help you learn more about and answer any questions that you have. So a quick overview of the plan for today. We'll walk through eligible cover or the current coverages that are available, as well as the carriers, and then a deep dive into eligible types of businesses, as well as eligible and ineligible products within the food, beverage, and clothing space. We'll do a demo, walk through the system, show you the questions, how the quoting process works, specifically for some of these new class codes. And then we'll have time for, as Alex mentioned, to do Q&A. So if you had any questions, answer them in. But we'll kind of jump into it here. So in terms of the coverage, we have general liability that's available, which includes the $1 million per occurrence and then $2 million aggregate. Within the general aggregate, that includes products liability. So there is $2 million for products completed operations that protects businesses against claims, lawsuits, legal fees, etc. So important coverage that is available for all class codes on Pathpoint that we'll review today and across the board. Deductibles here start at just $500, and then typo there should be premium starting at $500. So starting at $500 and up on the class codes that we'll walk through today. We also have additional insured vendors available on these class codes. Those are available on a scheduled and a blanket basis for all class codes, and then for certain class codes by carrier has different eligibility. For each class code, you will have an option for additional insured vendors for across all the carriers. Speaking of the carriers, we have two of our great partners here, Nautilus and Markel, both A and A+ rated. So we're excited to have them partnered here to provide digital solutions to provide access quickly and easily to their manufacturing products. In terms of eligible businesses that are eligible for these class codes, you can see the list here, but it includes in-home based businesses. We've had a focus in terms of marketing efforts, campaigns, capturing all of those, whether it's a part-time business that someone runs on the side, it might be a personal lines client that you have, rounding out some of those accounts where they have the home-based businesses as a side hobby, making extra money, or it could be something that they're fully into. It can also include the larger scale commercial manufacturers, contract manufacturers, including new ventures as well. And then also those who are doing relabeling, repackaging. Gross sales, the threshold here is up to 5 million. In terms of the annual gross sales, one of the carriers has a threshold of 2 million on these new classes, food, beverage, and clothing. So just a word of caution there. So I think for the best bet, keeping it the $2 million and under, but can consider up to 5. And then in terms of importers, these were eligible for other class codes, such as candles and shoes, footwear, things like that. But for the food and clothing products, the importing does require a referral, but it is still potentially within appetite. I'll look at some of the class codes and then products that are available today. So you can see here, there's different food products, class codes in terms of dry, frozen, and not dry. And you can see here anything from cookies, oatmeal, protein bars under the dry category to frozen waffles, frozen dinners in the frozen category. And then for the not dry, things like condiments, dips, hummus, peanut butter, all that kind of stuff, where it's neither dry or frozen, falling into that not dry category. So this list here, any of these products, it's not an exhaustive list, but to give you a feel for the types of products, the food products that are eligible here. Jumping into the beverage products, there's also a number of class codes, including beer, liquor, fruit and vegetable juice, and soft drinks. So within beer includes beer, but also malt liquor. And in terms of the liquor manufacturing, listed a good amount of the different types of liquor here, but any of these types of liquor here are eligible. In terms of the fruit and vegetable, kind of including your orange juice, your grape juice, but also things like almond milk, apple juice, coconut water, different types of beverage products that can be considered under this class code. And then in the soft drinks, anything from kombucha, which does have to be pasteurized, iced coffee, iced tea, etc. here. Look at clothing also included some of the other class codes that are related here in terms of if you have belts, gloves, accessories, and then footwear. But to look at clothing, kind of all your traditional types of clothing products that are eligible as well, including t-shirts, coats, dresses, etc. After looking at the eligible products, a look here at the types of products that are not eligible, starting with food and beverage. So anything from baby food, pet food, animal feed, are separate class codes out of scope for these types of submissions. Also out of scope, anything that relates to weight loss, dietary drinks, supplements, energy drinks, products containing cannabis, THC, marijuana, vitamins, pharmaceuticals. One of the types of beverages we don't consider right now, or two, I should say, are wine and milk. Those are separate class codes as well. Have those potentially planned, but in terms of capturing kind of the highest volume here in terms of submissions that hopefully you all see, those are going to be out of scope for the initial launch here as well, including any other unpasteurized beverages also of note. The two towards the end here that are have the note dairy products, cheese, butter, ice cream, yogurt, and then food, or sorry, excuse me, meat, fish, poultry, seafood processing. Those are separate class codes as well, as I'm sure you all know, but we have those planned in upcoming releases. So items that we will eventually be able to consider, but in terms of the submission quick appetite right now today, those are out of scope for what's available. A jump into clothing products that are not eligible. The big one here is any products intended for use by infants, toddlers, children under the age of 5, including things like pajamas, baby pajamas, toddler clothing, bedding for cribs, baby blankets, etc. Those are not eligible in the submission flow here that they have access to, and so you'll see in the demo here some question sets around a lot of these items as well. Also included in these prohibited clothing products are around safety protection, bulletproof vests, chemical resistant, fire resistant clothing, so no firefighting jackets, eye and face protection, safety glasses, goggles, face shields, football helmets, harnesses, high visibility clothing, hospital masks. Kind of get the idea here in terms of the eligible products versus the ineligible products. And then the last one, note, no products for the space, aerospace or aircraft, etc. industry, so no spacesuits, please. You can see here in terms of what's been quoted by agents so far in Pathpoints. We've had a good amount of submissions that have come through since we went live with these class codes in the last two weeks, but to give a feel for some class codes and types of products that were quoted, you can see there where if one quote was received, you see the premium. In cases where 2 quotes were received, you see both the premiums listed there. So things like hot sauce, tea, coffee beans, some of those items were listed in that list that we went through, but anything, we didn't have pickled pork skin on the list, but it is eligible. So able to consider things outside of those lists that were initially reviewed here too. All right, so now we can jump into a demo. I've got one teed up, but in terms of the class codes here that you can get quick access to, you can start a submission, see all the different products that are available today. I've went ahead and selected a class code. We're going to do a demo of a hot sauce submission, so selected the not dry food class code. And then have some initial information filled out here where I have some of the general questions in terms of prior coverage, confirm no on those to get a couple quotes back here. So you can see here in the question set, some of those prohibited items, making sure that none of those are applicable. We'll have this one be just hot sauce to keep it simple and get a couple quotes back. We'll confirm it's none of the meat processing, dairy products, the baby food, pet food, and then making sure it's none of these type of items here where some of the, making sure it's nothing tobacco, that wasn't listed in the slides there, but cigarettes, e-cigarettes, nothing like that is all eligible here as well. So we'll put hot sauce as the products, and so you can add the ingredients, description, and then the website. And so all of that information is available for our underwriting team to review as they need to, especially at the time of binding. You can also upload documents here in terms of labels, ingredients for quick access as well. There are a couple questions here in terms of restaurant and bar operations. We currently don't have the ability to tie in terms of our quoting. We have a restaurant quoting submission flow as well. One of the things that we'll be working on soon is tying some of those question sets and class codes together, where if you do have a beer manufacturer plus a restaurant, we'll be able to consider both of those in one submission. For now, we'll identify if there are separate operations. We'll keep those out of scope, so that we'll include that also in the quick facts here in terms of what's eligible, what's not eligible. There's also a question on compliance with FDA, USDA requirements. And then importing, again, if these can be considered, if it is, I think we've seen a number of products that have ultimately quoted with imported products, but I'll put no here for now to get a couple quotes back, but you do have the ability to provide more information here. If it is a home-based business, there's a question in terms of if the products are prepared in a sterile environment. If it is outside of a home-based business, it's confirming that all of the facilities are up to code, etc. So we'll put yes here. And for the gross sales, we'll put $1 million and then enter the effective date. And then, as mentioned here, you have the ability to add a couple of additional insureds, selected a couple of different insured options, including the additional insured vendors. Review the information here, make sure that all looks correct, and then submit to both the markets that are eligible here. And so at this point, the information from that was entered into the submission is being sent to Nautilus, being sent to Markel. It passed through their eligibility question set built into this Pathpoint, and then is now returning quotes back based on the information. And so you can see here we have two quotes available from Nautilus, from Markel, and then we can get more information on each of those quotes, including the actual quote letter here, which we can see. And that includes the information that was put in, as well as the premium. And then we can scroll down here to review, make sure the address, class code, exposure, all look in place. And then you can also scroll down here to see the designated products. So the products that are going to be designated to coverage 2, confirming those products that I input in that text box. So the nice thing here, if you do want to proceed with one of these options, all of the information required for the subjectivities as is the case on all of our other class codes outside of manufacturing as well. Those are all built in here where we'll complete all the subjectivity forms for you. And I can go ahead and start the e-sign process. I can put name here and then I'll put the business owner. And so now it's generating the accords, it's generating the null and loss letter, it's generating the Pathpoint supplemental, so the questions that I just put in, and then we can then go see in terms of, I can click sign here to start that process. And then before I start signing, you can see the accords that are filled in with the information from the submission, including the general liability, as well as, I guess just in this case, the confirmation of TRIA, known on loss letters, and then also the supplemental application here, where this becomes the basis of what is signed by both yourselves, the agents, as well as the insured. So make a signing to all the information that was just put in here, and also not requiring a separate pen and paper scan type of submission. All of this is collected here for both yourselves and the business owners. So they can confirm here, and then that gets completed, sent as part of, saved as part of these subjectivities that are then signed or saved in our system for our underwriting operations team. Once all this information is confirmed, completed, you can then request to bind. It gets sent to our underwriting team. They review the submission, make sure everything looks good, including the list of products, the website, etc. As long as that all looks good, we proceed to bind, and you have a quick access to some great coverage for a wide variety of different types of businesses. I kind of skipped over here, but also confirming that the products here as part of that workflow. So all of that built in here. We'll jump back to the slideshow and try to save some time for some Q&A. I see some questions that have come in. I want to make sure we cover those. We looked at the additional insured options. The additional insured, in terms of the additional premium, can add it here, but essentially it's for both the carriers, I think it's $150 per additional insured vendor with some blanket pricing. I think that's $500 minimum, subject to a certain percentage, I think, of the GL premium. So you can get more information there, but it is available, quick access to get a quote with that option on the quote in real time. And then also a quick look at, we kind of scrolled through in the class code section, but other class codes that are also available today on Pathpoint, including candles, cosmetics, footwear, and then leather and artificial leather goods. So some of those you saw with the footwear and leather goods in terms of the eligible products related to clothing, but also to call out some of the other available class codes today, candles and cosmetics being two of our more popular ones so far. You can see the list here, especially with cosmetics, a wide variety in terms of types of products that are eligible today to get quotes. I think everyone has seen the Q&A feature, but Alex, I will, however you want to coordinate this, I think there's a couple questions here.
Yeah, we do have a few really great questions. So one of we have an agent who has potentially a honey maker who would be looking for coverage. Would that be somebody who would be covered?
Great question. We should have included in the slides. So I mentioned a couple class codes that were not initially released, including dairy products, including the meat, seafood, poultry processing class code as well. Also in that group are syrups. There's a syrup molasses processing class code. There's also a honey. I forget the exact name, but it's along the lines of honey producing class code. So I think, in terms of the initial eligibility, I want to get back here in terms of potentially something that could be considered under that food, not dry class code, but also something I think we would just want to run by the carriers first, where they're willing to allow certain instances where, okay, it doesn't meet this class code, we can consider it under this other class code. But just want to get confirmation there. So I don't have, yeah, in terms of like today, it's not like right in our wheelhouse, but also we have line of sight in terms of class codes like that. There's also, I mentioned it, like I think the other big ones there, but yeah, we have plans to do things like honey, like syrups as well.
Okay, great. And then there's also a question, and this was kind of covered, but just to go over it again, what about fresh meat, seafood, and vegetables? Are those excluded? It sounds like maybe something is coming up for meat and seafood.
Yeah, so the separate meat and seafood class code that was mentioned, and I can go back in the slides here to just to show kind of what's not eligible. So the meat, fish, poultry, seafood processing. So if that's their main business operations where they're a meat processor, they're specializing in certain types of meat or whatever it might be. Those are essentially it's a separate class code, not within what's built into Pathpoint today. So there, as you saw in the demo, hopefully, but there is a question there where it's specifically asking about these type of operations where it's the meat and seafood. Again, similar to honey, we have plans to add more class codes here, but in terms of what's available today, I think a focus on some of these initial types of products that are definitely 100%. But we do have, again, plans to continue as we have with some of these other class code or, building out the different options. We do have plans in addition to the food, beverage, clothing, also some of these class codes here to round some of this out. And then vegetables, in terms of frozen vegetables are definitely within appetite. In terms of the fresh vegetables, I want to confirm that as well, because I know there's also like a fruit vegetable dealer in a type of class code as well. So let's say for initial scope, probably not the best bet in terms of what we can consider, but also we'll make a list of some of these items and get them sent out to the attendee list here where including the slides where these are great questions and we'll make sure to get feedback here.
And regarding the CBD and hemp food products, would those be eligible if there was no THC in it? Like if the THC was removed out of it, would that be okay? Or is it any CBD that is not eligible?
I think at least from the way the question set has been designed, and this all is based on carrier requirements, their feedback in terms of the questions, that they want to ask, as well as our underwriting operations team, like what's the best question set to ask here? It is, so I guess there was a good amount of time that was spent on defining this question specifically. So it does include CBD. So if it is one of those types of products where it's not THC, it's just CBD, it's not eligible today. I think that can also, depending on the submission volume, the needs that we see across yourselves, in terms of where there are additional needs outside of what's available today. CBD is potentially one of those, but I think that in terms of what's available, what's an appetite today, CBD only would still be a no.
And is GL written on the occurrence form?
It is. I will make sure to include that here. It doesn't specifically state, but yes, it is on an occurrence form. Yeah, so it not on a claims made basis. It's yeah, standard ISO occurrence form for both Markel and for Nautilus here.
Okay. And then this is a pretty unique question. So say if a beer manufacturer donates beer to a nonprofit for festivals, is there coverage for the nonprofit hosting the festivals? So I'm wondering if maybe it's like, the nonprofit is serving this beer, would there be coverage for them, just in case if anybody got sick drinking the beer or anything? I don't know if that would quite fall under this or not. What do you think, Craig?
I definitely don't want to make a definitive yes or no answer statement to that one. I know my limitations in terms of underwriting knowledge, and yeah, I think this goes a little bit beyond, but I think also I would lean towards yes in terms of um in terms of the additional insureds being, if the nonprofit is scheduled as an additional insured, I think it becomes more clear where I think that could definitely be a very valid additional insured like use case request that could be fulfilled there if that's helpful. But I think in general, yeah, the nonprofit needs coverage as well. Yeah, I think probably the best route would be to proceed in terms of getting that additional insured status for the nonprofit, but also would probably want to put you in touch with someone on our underwriting operations team who specialize in a lot of this stuff like day to day and can provide you a definitive answer here, but would kind of be the path I would at least suggest on that question. But I think, yeah, to take a step back, the coverage is designed to cover, the claims arising out of these products, bodily injury, property damage. And so, yeah, however that takes place, I think that's the intent of the coverage, is to provide protection against those types of claims.
Okay, awesome. And then can the premium be financed? And if so, can they be financed with any finance company?
Can say yes to your first question in terms of premium can be financed. In general, these are 25% minimum earned in terms of from each carrier. So regardless of if the policy is in place for 2 days, 5 days, 10 days, the 25% of that premium is earned by the carrier per the requirements that they have, like kind of standard across the board. And so just to make that apparent, but that's part of the premium finance contract, but that's considered, just obviously requires that down payment to be made ahead of time. But we also do have a lot of new and emerging functionality around premium finance functionality in Pathpoint specifically. Definitely keep an eye out there where I can jump to the demo, but you can see here in terms of providing the payment information. So we do have a lot built out right now in terms of providing, even if you wanted to provide a quick quote in terms of premium financing directly within Pathpoint. And so can provide more information there, but is pretty slick in terms of what they've built out so far and also are continuing to enhance. I don't know for sure the answer to your question on if any financing company, as we've built, it used to be the case, I think you could kind of do more of any financing company. As this becomes easier and easier, I think the hope is it's kind of similar to these other steps in the process where it just is a quick check of the box for you. If you want to provide a premium finance quote, we can do that, and then making that also just as simple and easy for both yourselves and for the insurers as possible. So we'll make a note of that question as well to get more information there, because I'm not doing a great job answering that second question and don't want to misspeak.
Yeah, I think I don't know for sure on this either, but we do have PathPay, which is a financing option, and that's through Ascend. So I don't know if Ascend is the only option that we can finance through. I think it is, but again, we will for all of these questions that we don't have definitive answers for, we will send these questions to people in our company that do have the specific answers, and they'll reach out to you directly so that if you have any other questions that come up with it, you have somebody that you can contact, and they can get you the definitive answers for these. So I hope that was helpful. I don't see any other questions coming in, but we will send out an email with the PowerPoint with a recording to this whole presentation so that you can view it again or send it to other colleagues if you think it would be helpful for them. And then on the next slide, we do have a webinar coming up where we have a new product offering coming out, which is coverage for food trucks. So if you have anybody, even within that food industry, you know, they're providing food to another supplier who's going to be a food truck, if you want to get them on your books as well and how to write that, our product expert, Drew, is going to be diving into that. So we'd love to have you join us. You can sign up on our website or scan the QR code here. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I hope that this was informative and helpful for you as you are diving into the food and clothing and beverage manufacturing area. But if you have any questions, again, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. And we really appreciate you guys taking the time this afternoon or this morning to just spend it with us and learn some more. So thank you so much for joining. And Craig, thank you so much for your time and your expertise.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for taking the time here today and awesome questions. Keep them coming through your account managers, through any other methods. Happy to answer all your questions. So thank you.